Hello and welcome back, Exiles, to another Zero to Hero video, or in this case, a League restarter. In this one, I just want to go over my League start plans, my Atlas strategy, and a little discussion about Path of Exile 2. Anyway, let's hop over into the Path of Building and get started. So, for this league, I have decided to go with a Trickster Spectral Helix. I chose this skill because I have never actually used it before. I know it was really popular when it was first released and it was quite strong, but I believe due to some tweaks over the years and the game state itself just getting quite a lot faster, it has sort of fallen out of favour and become one of those shadow skills that really is just not used anymore. One of the reasons that I started this series was specifically because I wanted to get better at Path of Exile and, enhance my knowledge, just to be able to take on more content with more personalised builds as opposed to using, run-of-the-mill meta setups. Thought what better to help with that than to revive a skill like Spectral Helix. So as you can see, this is a precise technique build. I didn't really want to mess around with crit just for the fact that it's early league. It would be extremely difficult to get all of that. So I decided to stick with precise technique. It's relatively easy to keep above your max health. So it's a nice just a free 40% more damage. This is a life and evasion setup. There is a secondary setup that I do plan to swap to, which is ES based, but that is that's more theoretical right now because I haven't actually been able to test that whatsoever. Anyway, let's just hop into some of the more details. So all of this gear is very much obtainable within the first few days. Auro Sacrifice is a great start for this build. It's big flat damage, attack speed, and Culling Strike, which is a huge quality of life. And then this gear is just good life, good res, and good suppress. Again, all of these, even all of the Eldritch currencies are literally day one, so just the embers, not embers, just the lesser versions of the currency. It's all really easy. Literally, it's all the same. Just suppress, life, evasion, some attack speed, some res. Attributes, because this one's a little bit attribute starved in the areas that it needs, and all easy to get with Rog, Harvest, Betrayal, Delve, easy stuff. As for the same thing for the Cluster Jewels, this is a really easy to get Cluster Jewel setup. It's just Enduring Composure, just for an Endurance Charge generation. This one is a little bit more difficult, but again, this could just be Harvest spammed relatively quickly. And again, you don't necessarily even need both. It's just the attack speeds are really nice on this. So it would be Feed the Fury would be the primary, and then Fuel the Fight is just a secondary if you can get it. And then needs to adjust intelligence and max life. Again, super easy to get. As for the skills, like I said, Spectral Helix is our main skill. Elements of damage with attacks. Momentum, just because I've always wanted to use momentum. The stacking attack speed and then the movement speed afterward. Synergizes well with leap slam, as everyone knows, but I just wanted to give it a proper go. Inspiration, obviously. Elemental focus. We were a little bit damage starved on this, so I wanted to just force in some more damage. And our last slot is a flex slot. So if we don't have enough accuracy on our gear, then additional action should be required to activate a precise technique. If we do have enough accuracy, then it'll be added lightning damage. And then when we actually eventually upgrade our Auro Sacrifice with a tri-element sword like this one, we would be looking to swap over to Trinity, because we just can't sustain. We can't sustain the triple resonance with not all our damage is like equalized in quotation marks. Next, Leap Slam, like I said, simple. Haste is our only DPS aura, and then the other ones are Arctic Armor and Flesh and Stone, because we're standing still so much and everything's going to be close to us. You know, easy, no worries there. As for Berserk, that will be slotted in later when we eventually get the gain 1 rage on attack hit Eldritch stat. So I haven't enabled that just yet, but again, when we do, our DPS does go up quite significantly. And you may be wondering why this is set to 3. That is because 1 is just one pass-through of the ability. However, when Spectral Helix passes through mobs, depending on their size, it hits anywhere between 2 and 3 times. And normally on medium mobs, medium to small, it's 2 hits, but on the larger mobs, it will be up to 3. So that is why that is set to 3, because that'll be possible for, you know, unique like in map bosses and things like that. And then next is just a Arrogance Precision setup, just for assistance with precise technique. Castman damage taken, Steel Skin, easy, obvious. These next 2 slots are where I've put a little bit of jank into the build. My previous video was just a 1-button playstyle, and I wanted to expand that a bit to have a bit more to do on this build. So that is why I've gone with a Vile Smite, Fortify setup just for defenses, and then Hex Touch, Elemental Weakness. Yeah, you know, self-explanatory. And then this one is a little bit odder. I wanted Tornado in the build so I could get shock on the enemies with Elemental Proliferation. However, I didn't really want to cast it with low attack with low cast speed, so I decided to go for an auto Exert Battle Mage's Cry setup, just to fit a little bit of jank in there and get a bit of automation going, but still have things to do with the build. Next up, so that is it for the life version. On the items and the actual skills, like I said, on the tree, it is. This is all about life and damage essentially, because we were a bit struggling for that. The only real bit of tech that I found out during my preliminary test of this skill was I thought point blank would be really, really great. However, due to the fact that projectiles travel in units, not in distance travelled from you, so obviously when Spectral Helix is spinning around you, it's moving so many units. So this quickly adds up to a gigantic DPS loss. So, yeah, as you can see, it's almost 90% reduced damage, like, if we click this on. So it's absolutely gigantic. So what we went for is a long shot setup. Overall, this is a huge damage gain, because a majority of the time these projectiles will exist for long enough to basically always have the highest percentage of damage on this. And then this one just for projectiles pierce. Projectiles that increase damage for each enemy pierced, just because Spectral Helix has infinite pierce, so it's free damage. This does need to be forced onto the build, because for some reason, when this isn't on it, the pierce from Spectral Helix doesn't actually count in Path of Building for some reason, so that's why it's forced here, and then that way this activates. So yeah. As for the ES variant for this one, it's not particularly fleshed out yet. There are some items and some setups in the Path of Building, but I didn't really flesh it out because I didn't know if I'd be able to easily swap to it. So that'll be an update at a later date, but the information is still there if anyone wants to see the bare bones information about it. As for my Atlas strategy, so this is the initial setup. The first focus will be map sustain, map sustain, map sustain, and then some Kirak sustain. Secondly, we will then start getting like our base like gear up, I could call it. like strat going, which will be forcing Nico, Jun, and Expeditions onto the maps. Because that'll be the basis for me gathering my gear. Tujin for general currency, because even though I want to use ROG to craft most of it, obviously if I don't get lucky from ROG, I don't want to just be gear starved, so this will be for currency and things like that. And then Betrayal, Delve for speed here. Obviously Extreme Archaeologist, just because it just makes expeditions so much faster. I'll block some of the content that I don't think will Spectral Helix will be good at, or I just don't enjoy right at the beginning of a league, which is this. And then I'll transition to Shrines for speed, and then among my last ones will be this one will be first, and then it will be Conqueror and Shaper maps, and then obviously this is already extremely filled out. So if I haven't completed my Atlas by now, this is going to be quite strange. But if somehow I haven't, the final remaining points will go straight into this one, just to supplement more Katarinas. So I actually have some kind of like income on this tree. I will revise this once I do complete my Atlas, and I'm happy that I can move on. But for now, this will basically be the basics of what I will be doing at the start. Hopefully it's okay. I haven't actually tested this before, because I usually start with Harvest, and I usually just spam Harvest essentially, just for quick returns. But I wanted to try something different this league. Now that the build information is out of the way, I wanted to just quickly talk about PoE2. I've noticed there's a lot of upset in the community about the delays. But frankly, in my opinion, I do think that it is somewhat of a good thing that they decided to delay instead of ship a product that they knew wasn't going to be ready in the way that they wanted it to be. And I think that's really good news, because it gives me confidence that they are still quality focused at GGG, instead of just like forcing out their new game, which I think is really great news, to be frank. And I don't know how true it is, but I did hear that one of the reasons that it was delayed was because not all the microtransactions were yet in Path of Exile 2, and that's one of the things that they really wanted to focus on, was that they wanted everyone who'd paid for something to actually be able to use that in the next game in the series, which I think is really great, and just again shows that GGG has a commitment to the players and just the game being good and feeling good overall, which I think is really great news. But all in all, I'd really like to hear what everyone else has to think about Path of Exile 2, and what everyone else has in plan for the beginning of the league restart, or the league remix, whatever you want to call it. And yeah, I'd love to hear about builds, I'd love to hear about strategies, and yeah, I hope you guys comment, and I hope you have a really great league start. Ciao for now, Exiles.